Hello Gecko fans, this is Wally with Supreme Gecko. You know one of my favorite geckos is the Paroedura picta. You have your Paroedura picta, you've put them together, you've gotten eggs, you've put the eggs into the incubator, and now they've hatched out. You have Paroedura picta babies. And you know me, one of the cutest things in the world is a Paroedura picta baby. But now what do? Watch this video and I'm going to tell you what you need to do to make sure that your Paroedura picta grow up nice and healthy. And make sure that you stick around until the very end because I'm going to give you a peek into the next video in this series, Paroedura morphs, and you're going to see some amazing, amazing Paroeduras. Hey Paroedura picta fans, have you watched the other videos in this series? From background and history to setting up a Paroedura picta to breeding the Paroedura picta. Make sure that you check the description below and I'll give you some links to those videos. As I've mentioned in the past, Paroedura picta is one of my favorite geckos that I've ever kept. And I've kept geckos for about 20 years. But I've kept Paroedura picta probably about 15 of those years. I've raised a lot of Paroedura picta. In the previous video, I shared all about hatching Paroedura picta eggs, and I'm going to share the link right up here. But I tell you what, there's nothing more exciting for me than going downstairs, looking in the incubator, looking in my leopard gecko room, opening a bead box and finding Paroedura picta eggs hatched out to babies. What an absolutely thrill it is. And I don't know what it is about Paroedura picta babies, but I have seen more actually hatching out, than any of my other geckos. So I'll go ahead and open that little tackle box, bead box. I'll collect the baby, I'll throw away the egg, and I'll go ahead and set up a Paroedura picta baby setup. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can set up a Paroedura picta baby setup. What I do is take a 6-quart container. You can get these from Walmart or Home Depot. You can usually get 6 for about $5. This 6-quart container will give you plenty of room for about 4, 5, 6, up to about 10 small Paroedura picta. I only keep these babies in these small enclosures for about a month to about 5 weeks. Taking this small tub, you can drill holes into the side, use a soldering iron to put holes in the side. What I prefer to do is put holes in the top of the enclosure and then cover them with chiffon. But what even works better for me is putting these 6 quarts on a rack. That way I don't have to deal with all the tops. Now either way you go, you have to set up these tubs with some heat. The ambient temperature should be about 75 or so, but the warm spot, about 20 to 25% of the enclosure, should be around 90 to 94 degrees. I did a video several years ago about setting up a Paroedura picta baby setup in under 1 minute. That was a lot of fun. You can check the link right here, but we're going to go into some different details right now. The first step is make sure that you have a substrate, and I like to use these paper towels. It helps hold the humidity in the enclosure and is really super easy to clean. Take out a paper towel, throw it away, put a new one in. I do a spot cleaning about once a week, but I throw out that paper towel about once every 2 weeks. Like all other babies, Paroedura picta love hides. They have to have hides. One of my favorite hides to use is egg cartons. First, they're very inexpensive. Second, they're easy to use in that they break up easily and you can fit them according to the tub that you're going to put them in. Third, they hold humidity. So if I miss this enclosure, that egg carton is going to be gently misted and it's going to hold that humidity for the babies to help them shed. And finally, fourth, because they're so inexpensive, I can throw those egg cartons out after a couple, 3, 4 weeks. Sometimes I'll use 1 piece, sometimes I'll use 2 pieces. I always put the first piece down so that it forms little caves for those Paroedura picta. Now there's so many other options that you can use for these hides. One is the styrofoam egg cartons. I like using them. They don't hold the humidity obviously, but they are very inexpensive and they're easy to break down and manage in this tub. Another option that you can pick is these flower pot saucers. Just take a tin snip, cut out a little notch, and it's perfect for the Paroedura picta. As well, there's all kinds of commercially available hides that you can purchase. I've just found that with several different tubs, it's easier to go with an egg carton or small flower pot saucers. Next, we have to have water dishes and we have to have food dishes. For these little Paroedura picta, the very perfect dishes are these bottle caps. Again, inexpensive and easy to clean. Now here's one of my very favorite tips to use with Paroedura picta babies. I like the deli cup tops. Put them in the enclosure, put a little calcium and vitamins in there. Put the mealworms right on the cup tops. The Paroedura picta will go right on top of the tops and eat the worms right from the top. Here's another tip. When I put water in the water dish, I like to overfill it, spill a little bit in the enclosure on the paper towel and on the egg cartons. That helps humidify the whole enclosure. Whatever type of food dish you're using, make sure that you add calcium and vitamins in that dish. I have a special video that you can watch right here talking about the supplements that we use for our geckos. Now, just a moment ago, I mentioned that I keep those Paroedura picta babies in that small 6-quart tub for about 4 to 5 weeks. At that point, I start moving them out into 15-quart tubs, and I'll put about 6 in a tub that size. In this tub, I make it very, very simple. I put sand down, I put the egg cartons, I put a mealworm cup. It's important for me right now to put the mealworm cups in there, give them more food, a bigger area to feed from. I put the calcium and vitamins in that mealworm cup, and I give them a water dish. For substrate, I like to use play sand. The cheaper the better. You can find these at any of the home improvement stores. When we talk about food for Paroedura picta, the absolutely best food that I've found up to about 2 months of age is these micro mealworms. The best source that I found for micro mealworms is Rainbow Mealworms, and I'll put a link in the description below. We get about 5,000 to 10,000 of these micro mealworms at a time, and they last for months and months and months. Now, I'll keep these Paroedura picta babies in this 15-quart tub from about 4 to 5 weeks old up until about 2 to 2.5 months of age. But while I keep them in here, I'll start watching for males. And once I see a male pop up, I'll pull that male out and put him in his own separate enclosure. As I've mentioned before many times, Paroedura picta are very, very susceptible to breeding too early and not having enough of the vitamins and calcium in their systems for the females to thrive. I wait until the females are about 8 months of age before I put the males with the females. I'll go ahead and spot clean this enclosure every single week, and about once every 2 weeks, I'll scoop out some of the sand, throw it away, and replace the old sand. Let's talk about 2 issues that you might have with your Paroedura picta babies. The first one is missing tails. These babies will bite off each other's tails occasionally. It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it does. The way to avoid this is to separate them out as soon as you can. As soon as you can put them in different enclosures, they'll stop doing this. Like I said, we'll start with about 10 of these Paroedura picta in a very small enclosure, 6 quarts. But if I have 10, I'm going to move them out in about 4 weeks to a bigger enclosure, and I'll go from 10 to about 6, from the 6 quart to the 15. And I'll watch those 6 religiously and pull out any males to stop that aggression. The second issue that you can have with Paroedura picta babies is shed. Again, this doesn't happen that often, and the more humidity that you can provide in your enclosure, the more you're going to stop that. You can have too much humidity though, so let it dry out. If you moisten the egg cartons or the paper towel, or you mist the enclosure, make sure that it dries out completely before you mist or wet that enclosure again. As well, make sure you absolutely positively always have good supplements in that enclosure, and that's going to help them shed even better. If you're still having shed issues, I would suggest putting a small clump of sphagnum moss in the corner of the enclosure to help keep that humidity up. It's so much fun seeing these little Paroedura picta babies and the colors that they have. Let's take a look at a couple of Paroedura picta that I've raised up over the years. Now don't forget, we're going to have the next video in the series, Paroedura picta morphs, coming up very shortly, and that is going to be an amazing, amazing video. But in the meantime, if you have questions about their background and history, or their care, or how to breed Paroedura picta, make sure you check one of these links out right now. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next episode.